All right, guys, last time you saw me, we left off finishing up the full engine harness for the SRZ. Harness I made from scratch. If you guys didn't see the video, go check it out. It was pretty awesome, and I'm honestly really proud of it. So today, we're gonna find out if I made it correctly. So we gotta start off by testing all the main functions, make sure those work, and then we can set up a base map on the ECU, and then hopefully by the end of the day, we will hear this thing run for the first time in, I think, almost a year, which is pretty mind-boggling. So getting right to it because I'm super eager. So to start off, we gotta find out if the harness will actually turn on with the key. And then we got to test for spark on the coils, and we got to test for pulses on the injectors. That'll be our first test. So if you guys don't remember, we're using the Link G4X Monsoon ECU. Very excited for this, and let's check it out. So first thing we got to do is see if it powers up. Yeah. That was really corny.
I know.
So disregard this giant mess. I literally had to tear the whole interior apart just to get the old harness out. All right, so we're hoping to hear that relay click, and the light should come on the back of the ECU. You ready?
Yep. Nothing. Should be right here, right?
Yeah.
Nope. Oh wait, nope. That was a bolt.
Ha! It's on.
It's on.
Okay, hold that relay in your hand. The relay. Yep. And tell me if it clicks when I turn the key on. Ready?
Yep. Yes.
Perfect.
I can physically feel it.
That is good. So the ECU turns on, which means it's getting power. The relay clicks, which means the harness is getting powered. So stage one, we're in the clear. All right, so now we're gonna test the coil packs. So let me know if these things are sparking, all right?
Okay. It's making noises. It's sparking.
That's cylinder one?
Sure.
Good news. Cylinder two?
Yep.
All right, ready for cylinder three?
Go.
And then ready?
Yep.
Cylinder four.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby. Injector one.
Yep.
Injector two.
Yep.
Injector three.
Yep.
And then injector four.
Yep.
Woo!
We're cooking with electric now.
Dude, I'm feeling, this is a good feeling. This is a really good feeling. Okay, so injectors work, coils work, everything turns on. Now we have to set up our base map. All right, so I guess we'll switch to a screen record.
Sure.
All right, so I don't have much of an order here, but let's get the ECU connected and we're gonna jump right into it. So first, I'm gonna go on to the ECU settings. We're gonna handle the feel settings. So first thing we do is we turn it on. And we're gonna be running sequential injection, which means each injector is firing separately. And then we can go over and we can turn on our ignition settings. So we'll turn it on. And of course, we're gonna be running direct spark, which every cylinder is firing on its own versus wasted where it's sharing a fire. So that's all on and good for now. We can leave those settings how they are. And then we can go over and handle our trigger settings, which is probably one of the most important. And this is kind of basically the settings for picking up the cam angle sensor, the distributor, or whatever pickup you have. As you can see, there's a bunch of factory ones that are preset on here already from Link. You can see there's so many. And Nissan has a couple. Right here, you go all the way down to the bottom. There's 2 ones, that's for distributor, and widest slot. This should work, but unfortunately it didn't work out. So if you go back, there actually is one at the top that is called Nissan 360 Opt. See, I picked those before. And now if you go up, this voiceover thing's not easy. That will set us up good for the SR20. Now you can go to trigger 1, and we're gonna change this to falling, just because that's what the Nissan sensor uses. And then we'll go to trigger 2, and you can see that this setting is already on falling edge, so we're good to go. So now I quickly forgot the firing order, very important. If you go down, you can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not gonna work. SR20 is 1, 3, 4, 2. So we set that up real quick, and then we're good to go. So that is all set, and now we can move on to our analog inputs. Go right to it, the coolant temp sensor. As you could see, there's the whole list of the analog inputs. Right there, we have our analog temperature one. Then we go through, and to calibrate it, we have to pick what sensor it is. And as you can see, there's a bunch of different factory sensors. Well, luckily, a lot of companies use the same coolant temp sensor for many generations, and for us, 350Z should work. Then you go down, see what else we need, the intake air temp. We're using one of those, so we set that up, and we are using that on the analog temperature 2 input. And then, of course, we calibrate it, and since we are using a link intake air temperature sensor, we found it on the list, click it, and we should be good to go right there. Go back to the list. What else do we have on here? We have the throttle position sensor. So we're going to set that up on analog 1, I guess we used. So we'll set that up, and then this we'll have to calibrate later on when I actually get the sensor in the car. And then we go through, and we also have our AFR gauge right here, or lambda sensor. That is on volt 2. We go through the calibrate it, and of course we have the AEM wideband sensor already in there, pre-calibrated. Gonna click OK, and then we're good to go. We could then quickly jump to our auxiliary outputs, I guess really quickly, and we could turn on the fuel pump control. This we have on aux 2, set it up, and we're good to go. Set the prime for 3 seconds, that's fine. Test it really quick, make sure it works, throw it on, and you are good to go. It's easy. Going back, sometimes it's not actually in the auxiliary list, like the boost setup. Go through, we could turn our boost controller on. We're good to go. This is set up for a typical Mac valve, so I'm not too worried about it. And then, of course, we have to define it. Aux 1, and we're ready to party. So if you look, once we turn it on, we have 4 tables underneath, and that's going to be our boost control table, so we can go through and actually set those up later on. So now going back through, we could set our engine fan. You could see we have 3 engine fan outputs right there. We'll only be utilizing 1, which is aux 3, or aux 5. And then we could set it to kick on at probably 185 degrees, sounds good. But if you go down, you can actually see we could set different stages, so we could actually have them kick another fan on at 205 or another fan kick on at an even higher temp, or whatever temp we want to set it to. So now for auxiliary outputs, we have our TAC, and we could turn that on real quick, define it once again. And then this we might have to configure to work with the cluster specifically, but for now we're just going to turn it on and verify that the pin works. And you should be able to see your TAC on your cluster sweep real quick, and you should be good to go, and we can play around with that later on. All right, so you guys saw me set up the base map. Now, what we did was we kind of just defined everything. So we told the ECU where everything is. Now, there's a couple things in here that we actually have to still set up. Now, the link is nice because it has a lot of predetermined sensors in there, like you guys saw. You're able to select a sensor and already have the calibrations for it. Sometimes you're not that lucky. You could find the calibrations on manufacturers' websites, or you can just find them online and manually input them. So first thing we actually have to set up is we have to set our timing. So first, what we got to do is we actually have to verify that we're getting a cam sensor and we're getting a crank sensor pickup. Now, since it's an SR20, all it has is this sensor right here, and inside of it, it works as both a cam and crank sensor. There's 2 pickup wheels in there. So let's crank this thing over and see if it is getting signal. First big test. So to verify that the cam and crank sensor are actually being picked up, we could use the built-in trigger scope that Link uses. So as it cranks, I hit capture, and as you can see, a bunch of stuff pops up. We have trigger 1 on top, trigger 2 on the bottom. You can see up top it looks like this solid white chunk, but on the bottom we actually have these different slots, which are basically windows on our decoder wheel inside the cam angle sensor. So that'll act as the cam sensor below and the crank sensor above. The above looks pretty crazy and it looks confusing, but as we widen the resolution, you can actually see that it's not just one solid chunk. It is actually just a bunch of small pickups, since the Nissan is ridiculous and they use like 100-tooth pickup wheel. And as you spread it open, you can see that it actually is pickup points. So we could see that the sensor is picking up not only the crank sensor but also the cam sensor, and we should be good to go. What's really nice about this function is you can actually count the teeth in between. So if you have to manually set up your trigger settings, this is basically the information you need to know to be able to fill it out. So we're good to go there. We are in sync, and now it is time to lock in timing. If you guys don't know what timing light is, this basically flashes every time cylinder 1 fires. So when this flashes, it's going to show a mark on the crank, and we want it to flash at the mark on the crank that reads 0 degrees is on that line. Hopefully we're not too far off, so we can move it out just a little bit. Sometimes you got to keep swinging it until you're near it. So RJ, okay, don't mind the squeaky starter. It's always been squeaky, I don't know why, but RJ, crank it for me. So I don't know if you guys can see the markings on the camera because it's kind of hard because it's distorted, but we are actually really, really close. So I should only have to, I don't even know if I have to adjust it. Do it one more time. Do it one more time. I'll pay attention this time. All right, stop. All right, well, for some reason, it's perfectly timed, which is like really awesome. The chances of that happening are pretty slim. Pretty slim.
Slim like you, Slim.
Well, I don't need to adjust it, but if you have to, we can go on to the computer program real quick. So if it was off like it probably should have been, we'll come to this program right here, and if it looks like it's 10 degrees off, 10 degrees, and we'll watch it swing on the crank. And once it is locked in, say it's not even close, so we have to move it 80 degrees, and that's when it officially lines up with 0 degrees on the crank. We click done, and the link ECU will actually reset the base timing on its own using this little function, and you're good to go. So we have it locked in at 0 degrees. It is 0 degrees, so that means we are good to go. So at this point, realistically, it should be good to run.
I'm excited.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the only thing we have to do is we have to change the fuel settings. So with the Link ECU, every ECU kind of does fuel settings a little bit differently. Link, what they use like this a fuel scaler. So if we go over here to fuel setup, we go to fuel main, and you see this master fuel right here. And what we're going to be doing is we kind of adjust this for the size of the injectors. Now there's like a little calculator I know that helps you like on your initial guess, but we're going to start small because I have 750s in here, and I'm just going to make this 5. All right. So let's put the spark plugs back in this thing and try and crank it over. Sound good?
We could go for a ride today, maybe?
We'll see what happens. I think it's time. Now everything seems to work. We don't have a TPS yet, that's why I didn't set it up. DJs bring me one later on. The fuel pump relay is not working because I guess the factory fuel pump does a little bit differently than I thought it did, so we'll talk about that later on. But it should run. All right, it should run.
Let's give it a shot.
Let's give it a shot. Dude!
All right. First try.
Not bad. Wow. Okay, dude. Let's try again.
It's so sick.
That is so dope.
No fires.
Alright, so even though I wired it in, the car has no IAC, so it's gonna be a little rough to idle for now. We'll set that up later on. But dude,
It's running.
from scratch, everything. Oh, I'm so happy with this. Dude, it's stable. Woo! Dude, oh my god, I can't believe this freaking worked like that. This is like first take. This isn't staged. Ah, that's so cool. That's so freaking cool.
2 of the best cars in the shop are running again.
I'm so happy. This is cool because like everything on this car I touched, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm so proud of this car. It sounds great.
I love this car.
Dude.
I hate that this car, once it was kind of finished, it was working, and then
it got neglected. I don't know. I know a lot of you guys do know this car, but a lot of guys probably don't. I threw this car together in a rush, and then like I just kind of got some bad vibes from it. I just wanted to take a break from it, so I kind of put it in the corner.
Then like you took a bunch of parts off.
And I took a bunch of parts off, and then like we just kept going on from project to project, and I just kept losing, you know, momentum, and then like not wanting to spend money on it. And I'm happy that we're here now, and it's running. It sounds awesome. Just
It does sound good. The exhaust of this thing is amazing.
a little more fab special. So we gotta get this thing up to operating temp, try to get the fans kick on and everything. But so far, dude, it sounds really good.
I love the LSZ. Don't get me wrong, but this is my favorite.
It's so cool. Brian's gonna be so happy.
I know.
DJ's gonna be. Everyone loves this car, so everyone's gonna be stoked. All right, so now it's running. It's easier to kind of check ignition timing. So we were off about 7 degrees, which is not a big deal because I mean it's close enough that the engine was obviously able to start. But before you start tuning it and driving around, you really need to lock ignition timing because that's one of the most important things you could do. So you know that what your ECU is commanding is what the engine is actually doing. Because if your ignition timing is off, it could really damage the engine once you start beating on it. So, Dan.
Thank you, sir.
Last piece of the
It's
puzzle.
very anodized from sitting, but it should work.
Beautiful.
Is that wrinkled black on there?
Someone painted the whole. Remember when the whole manifold?
Jesus. It'll have to do. Thank you, Donald. So now that we have a TPS and we can actually calibrate the TPS, which is like the easiest sensor to calibrate. So RJ, come here. TPS, ready? Watch this. Calibrate it. Fully open. Full throttle. Okay. Release. Okay. Go down here. See it? Fuck, the TPS isn't working.
Okay. Are we doing tuning time with James right now?
We are. It just completely backfired in my face because the TPS isn't working.
Can we skip that step?
You might have to. Not worried about it. I probably just pinned it wrong. That starts up so fast.
Started up so fast, you scared the car. You hear that?
Yeah, you hear that squeaky starter?
It's like,
Dude, it's always had that issue. The DJ's S14 has that issue too. I'll fix one day, but the power steering pump's on its way out, so just whatever. I just feel like I need to do this right now. It's so funny how like the Link, like I've had 4 different ECUs on this car, right?
Yeah.
And it's crazy how it is just so much happier on the Link. It's ridiculous. You know, they all do the same thing, right? And they all control the same things, but I barely touched this map so far, and it just, you know, you saw it run around with no TPS, just did a little baby pull, and it's idling, no problem, no IAC. The throttle response is fantastic, which is hilarious. It just feels like a whole different car. Like, it feels completely different. The only thing that's different is the management, you know? I can't wait to tune this thing. Feels good. Feels really good. Definitely got an exhaust leak. You hear the tickiness?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if the header's leaking or the turbo gas is leaking, but something's leaking up there because it's got that ticking up front. Whatever. At least it's running. Well, she cleaned up pretty damn good. I'm really happy. I mean, the thing needs like a buff and a polish real bad, and I mean, it needs a lot, but it is it officially feels resurrected. But now I could justify spending some time and some money on this car, and I honestly couldn't be more excited. Just look how good this looks. There is a long to-do list on this car, but I'm excited to tackle it. So I gotta throw the whole interior back together. It's a huge pain in the ass. We'll get that to the next, and I have to wire in a fuel pump relay for this thing because the factory one isn't behaving very well. And then of course you gotta get the other sensors to work. But for now, it runs, it drives, it looks good, and man, I need to shut up. This is sick though. Alright, so I had to do it before I went home for today. I wasn't planning on it, but I got the complete interior together, and it might not sound like a feat, but this is quite the puzzle. And check it out. It is officially a car again. I am absolutely just excited, amazed, in love. Check it out. This is pretty crazy. It really is. I even got my little Japanese cup holder. I put a new steering wheel in it. It's feeling. What do you think, DJ?
I think it's great.
It's great. It's, I literally feel like I just got a new car. Like you know what I mean?
Looks like a new car.
I mean, I had it once, but
Nice wash.
it's back.
Brought her back.
Brought it back from the dead. So, all right, there it goes. I know I keep just saying the same thing over and over again, but this is cool. It's a good day. I really needed this after the couple L's we took. So, now we got a long to-do list, but the big stuff is there. And this is cool. So I'm gonna end it there. Hope you liked today's video. I gotta go home, edit this thing. It's probably been a pain in the ass. But I hope you guys learned a thing or two on the startup tune. And then that stuff isn't the fun stuff to learn how to do. And there's a million different ways to do it. And it's not always the easiest and not always the same. But tuning it for some power is the fun, honestly, probably easier part to it. And I know you guys are excited for that. So we'll film that too. But with that, you guys know the deal. Like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more content. And Garrett, do it.
Have a good night.